So today we're going to take a look at making object 1 three-dimensional. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to come up here to View, and we want to go down and deselect Unified View. In this, we're going to start in our orthographic layer where we have our drawing and we can select our objects. And what I'm going to do this morning is with my Move tool, I'm going to select these 3 shapes. And I'm just going to take myself off of my scaling option so I don't mess anything up. But I've selected the outer box, the inner box, and the circle here. That's going to be my hole. If these are not shapes, this is not going to work this morning. So if you don't have shapes, you want to check and make sure that you actually have shapes rather than lines. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy these items and I'm going to go to my isometric layer. And in my isometric layer, I need to identify where I took the view, where I took the pieces from, which view did I go from. And in this particular case, I went from my top view. I took all 3 pieces from my top view. I took all 3 pieces from my top view here, and what I'm going to do is in my top plan, I'm going to paste those 3 pieces. So those 3 pieces are going to be from my top plan in my isometric view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect these. Sometimes we're going to find, especially when we're taking it from the front view or the side view, we might need to change the layer plane to screen plane rather. Stay tuned for something that's going to show that example. But what I want to do now is I want to take this object here and I'm going to extrude this box 2¼ inches. And I'm going to extrude this box 3 inches. Notice how I'm doing each one of these individually, and the reason for that is I want to be able to ultimately look at all 3 of these objects together. And I need to now add and subtract some solids together. So I'm going to take that box and this outside box together, and I'm going to model, add solids, and you'll see that that line goes away now, showing me that that's one solid object. And lastly, I'm going to take this and model subtract solids, and again the red line is what you're trying to keep, so I'm going to keep the large object. Now if I were to shade this final shaded polygon only here, I now have my object. In this particular case, I'm going to want to go up to my layer stack, double click on my layer stack, and in my isometric layer I'm going to change my scale from 1 to 1.5. You're going to see that now I have an isometric scale that's a little bit different here. Lastly, what I want to do is I am going to switch to screen plane. And in my screen plane now, when I do my text tool, I'm going to put isometric scale 1 to 1.5. And I'm going to highlight all of that. And we're going to make that in all capital letters. And there we go. And I'm just going to place that right up here. Now this one, I'm ready to go back into my title block. So I'm going to go to my title block layer. And now it's time to adjust all of this stuff. All right, so I did have a scale of 1 to 1, but my object here is going to be object 1. I can adjust the date now. The class period is going to stay the same. My name's going to stay the same. And then ultimately, I'm going to go right back to my orthographic or my isometric layer, just checking, making sure everything's okay. And then I'm going to go up to View, down to Layer Options, Show, Snap, Modify Others. And back in my layer stack, I'm going to now have to rearrange some things. So I want all of my stuff to be on top of my title block so that when I look at it, I can see everything. And while I'm in my isometric layer, final shaded polygon, and ultimately this is what I would like each one of these to look like when they're done. So what I've got now is I've got my 3-dimensional view, I've got my 2-dimensional view, I've got my title block, everything's visible. We're going to go up to File, down to Save.